public meeting to order at 6:25 p.m. Let's remove our hats and swear pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move approval of the agenda, not necessarily in the order presented.
Second that. Motion by Bartle, second by Dan. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, not necessarily in this order, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda. Is there anything that any of the supervisors would like removed from the consent agenda to discuss separately? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G?
So move. Second.
Motion by Don, second by David. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Committee reports. Chairman's report. Did you have a committee?
There is I've been on this sewer service committee, and there have been some write-ups on it, and I'd like to share them with the board at some time. So they're extensive and not very interesting to most people, but I would like, as a matter of just representation, I would like to ask Supervisor Jordan to kind of join me in regard to reviewing, the materials. So if you're willing to do that.
Okay. David, did you have a fire meeting?
We haven't had a fire meeting since March. Our next one is August. We do have the chief here on the agenda to give us some updates. So I'll pass at this point.
All right. Well, my report, you all may have noticed we had a closed session to talk to our attorneys. Obviously, we don't discuss that publicly, what we talk about, but I just want to let the community know we've had a lot of inquiries about the developer and or his agents approaching people in the neighborhood of the near the UU proposed annexation, and circulating letters, emails, solicitations, whatever. I just want to say right now, in public, to the developer and his agents, that is not welcome. We've received a lot of complaints by it. The people aren't interested in annexation that live in that area. So for those, I know that some of the agents for Derek have been to our meetings, but I just want to say it right out in public. It's not welcome. You're not making any progress with any of those folks. And we're determined to fight the annexation 100% without question. There is no petition filed with the state yet for annexation under a new route. We are aware of what they might propose, but it's a long shot at best, let's just say that. So I think that the likelihood of this coming to any real fruition anytime soon is slim to none. And so to the public, just want to, for those who watch the meeting or are on Zoom, it's our intent as a town to fight annexation every step of the way. And I would just ask that the developer and his agents stop harassing these people. Very simple. So that's my report. In part, the only other thing is, as promised from the last meeting, I did go out to the property near N that was the subject of a lot of discussion last meeting, to personally look at it, inspect it, talk to the owners, and so I did that. So that's just my update from the chairman's perspective. Let's do this. Let's put a pin in public comment for a time being, and let's hear from the Hudson Fire Department. So let's move to item 6.
We don't have to. If there's people that want to speak, they can go ahead and speak. I'm not in a hurry.
No, that's okay, guys. You know, we'd rather have you available for being out there, so.
All right. Good evening. Drew Spielman, Fire Chief, Hudson Fire Department. I had out a few pieces of paper tonight, just to give you guys an update of where we're at right now from here in the town of Hudson. As of today, we've had 62 calls in the town. If you look at the other sheet, the colored sheet, right now we're projected for 128, looking to be up 11% this year, if things hold as they are right now. We're also looking to be up this year overall Fowler Wine for the fire department. To date, we're almost 6% over last year for the same period. So to say things are slowing down is not true. As the communities continue to grow, as more people move into the communities and expand, obviously the calls for service go up. It's just the nature of the beast. More people, more issues. So I would say nothing within the report to date in the town is of any concern. These are all calls that you expect to have within the municipality. So I can answer some questions if you have anything on call volume, projections. And the other thing I will point out on the cover page there is the response times. And again, that's the big driver. I'm trying to get some full-time staff, is how long it's taken to get to an incident. And that's the main reason. I can give you an update on where we're at with the referendum. So we did a community survey with city residents. And I'll explain the fact that the only reason city residents were allowed to have a survey is because it is the city fire department. And the village and the two townships are contractual with the city for fire protection. And ultimately, at the end of the day, not that we don't care what the citizens in the communities have to say, we're very concerned with what their opinions are and their thoughts. But at the end of the day, to try to save some money on the surveys, if the city is in favor of it voting-wise, then the other municipalities have to follow suit. So it's not that we didn't care, it's just that the city residents control the direction that we go. So I know there was some concern out there in the community why people didn't have the chance to voice their opinion and everything. So the intent is moving forward, should the city, and I'll highlight the fact should because there's no guarantee, should the city decide to move forward with the referendum, we will have more information coming out. We will have probably an open house at the fire department where people can come in and we can have those discussions and people can come in and ask questions and get the appropriate answers. The unfortunate thing is with social media, I think sometimes the wrong message gets put out there. And a lot of times the only people that make comments on social media are people that are negative to certain things. So and I don't think it paints a broad picture of what the thought is out there. We had 73% in favor of going to referendum or supporting moving to some full-time staff. As our call volumes continue to increase and our response times go down, the availability of personnel, this is just something we have to work towards. We can't sustain the system that we're currently in for much longer. And if you've been following any of the news out of the Twin Cities, it's become a big issue in the metro area of the Twin Cities. If you look nationwide, even the state, the company that the PR firm that we hired with to do a lot of our work for this referendum have done 75 public safety referendums in the state of Wisconsin in the last 5 years. So if that tells you the issue that there is within the state for funding public safety, that's a very high statistic. So the other thing, I guess the big news on the fire department is in June, we were able to hire an assistant chief, so we have a full-time assistant chief now. Chris Marzoff is our new assistant chief. He's taken some of the burden off me and the fact that I'm trying to be at 4 municipalities and control what goes on in 4 municipalities. He's taken over our training, so he's designing, developing, and giving a lot of our training, which we're required by state statute and federal regulation. There's certain training we have to do for a certain amount, so he's taking care of that. So that's been a big help, and he's been taking over our special operations teams, our dive team, our rescue team. So yeah, I guess that's the biggest news right now. So just going back to the referendum, I believe the city is going to make a decision that in August. whether to go forward or decide not to do a referendum.
Chief, can I interrupt you on that?
Yes.
Do whatever you can to push them to make the decision sooner rather than later, like at the July 20th meeting.
Yep.
Because we need to know what the city is going to do.
Right.
And we'll have a very tight timeline to respond in light with how we're going to pursue our financing.
Correct. So
By August 25th, by August 25th, we have to turn in any referendums that are going to go on to the fall ballot. So the timeline is tight.
definitely make that push. So our budgets are due Friday this week in the city. We're going to run parallel budgets with the fire department. We're going to run one as if there is no referendum, and we're going to run one if the referendum passes. So obviously there's going to be changes within that budget, but hopefully I can get you something that's, you can see both sides of it, what the cost is going to be both ways, and get that to you sooner than later, for sure. But I will definitely make that push.
That's great news. Any information you can get us on the various modeling and so forth helps us make our decisions in time.
Yeah, for sure. No, I understand. That's all the information I have update-wise. If there's any questions?
Yeah, we got any questions? Go ahead.
I have a question. So I'm just looking at this, the exhibit that you just indicated here. And now my understanding is that the town of Hudson, we pay about 25% of the costs of the department. Is that right?
Yeah, 24.6 or something. Yeah, 25. I'll say 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it looks like here, just incidents that were less than 20% in your report here of the total incidents. And 50 out of over 250. So.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It is. The big driver, the other component is not just the call volume, it's your equalized value. So because you have a higher equalized value than say the village does, that affects how much percent-wise that you pay in.
Dan, also I looked through the data on this, and the way the contract is written, it's a 5-year trailing average of call volume. So while the city calls are going up now, that doesn't work into the average except rolling over 5 years.
Okay.
So we have been trending down as a percentage of the total cost that or total budget of the fire department, but it just takes time to roll down.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
The other component of that, too, in 27, you'll see a little bit of a decrease, I'm talking 1 or 2%, is with us servicing more of the town of Troy. That brings your equalized value up and their run volume up, which then they'll pay a higher percentage into the fire district. It'll bring everybody down a little bit. We're talking 1 or 2%, but every little bit helps.
So I have another question too, just in terms of equipment utilization. Is there any kind of, I don't know, maybe triage might be the right word, I'm not sure, in terms of judgment that's made in terms of what kind of vehicles you set up, depending on, what kind of quality you get and so forth, if you kind of elaborate on that.
Yeah, we have what we call a response plan. So based on the type of call, it is predetermined what types of apparatus respond to an incident. So obviously structure fire gets a lot more resources. As a medical assist is usually one resource, sometimes two depending on the issue, but we definitely have a running response of the type of call that gets sent. We don't send everything to everything.
Sure.
It's definitely a tiered response.
Yeah, and I don't mean to cross-examine you or whatever, but what I'm trying to get is the town, in terms of the value, that we're getting. You got some pretty sophisticated multi-story equipment and that sort of thing, which, I don't know how much it comes into use, in the town and that sort of thing. So maybe you can address that.
Are you talking like a ladder truck?
Yep.
Yeah, well, I will tell you that with one of the commercial fires we had in the town in January, we did utilize that ladder truck at that fire. So even in the city, it doesn't go up all the time at a fire, but it's a resource that we have if needed, right? So,
Okay. And then false alarms calls, are big, a big part. Are those, are there, some of them, are they central station oriented, or are people calling in? How's that actually working? What's the dynamic?
Sure. So if it's a fire alarm, if it's a commercial fire alarm in a commercial business, that goes to a monitoring company, and then they notify dispatch and send us. If it's residential, most residentials have a monitoring service that monitors their fire alarm systems if they have them. And again, same thing. But if somebody has a smoke detector that's going off for an unknown reason or something like that, they would have to physically call 911 to get a response out of us. But everything that's a fire alarm, whether it's residential or commercial, goes to a centrally monitoring company that they're paying for that security that notifies us.
Well, I mean, not everybody's using that, though. I mean, I think you're saying, but because some people are calling it in, right?
Some are.
The alarm's going off.
Yep.
In some cases, you're saying that in the majority of them, it's going into someone who's monitoring it, and then they're basically reporting on.
Right. And that's what they're paying for. They're paying for that monitoring service to monitor. If they're not home or whatever, commercial business at night.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if it's a residential fire alarm that's called in and we get proper code to cancel to a residence, we don't respond because it's assumed the homeowner's on site and it's confirmed there's no issue. Commercial fire alarms, even if we get proper code to cancel, we still follow up because we found too many times that the person calling in with proper code to cancel is not even on site, which I don't know why not cancel the fire department if you're not there. And we've also found that when they do have commercial fire alarms, the alarm systems don't get reset. So they're no good if they're not reset. So we always follow up on commercial fire alarms, even if we get proper codes to cancel. Residential fire alarms, we get proper code to cancel. It's assumed the homeowner's there, we don't follow up on those.
So just to be clear again, so if it's canceled, so who cancels it? Is it the monitoring service or?
No, so they make 2 phone calls. They call in the incident to dispatch and they say, hey, there's a fire alarm at 123 Main Street.
Yeah.
Then they call who is on the list as a key holder.
Yes.
So it could be the business owner, it could be the homeowner, and they have a PIN that they have to give them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, this is central monitoring, we have a fire alarm at your address, is everything okay? And they say, yes, everything's fine, I'm toast. Okay, well, what's your PIN number? 5678. Good enough for us. They call dispatch back, so you can cancel. Same thing with the business, they call a key holder.
Okay. Great. That's helpful.
So I just have one general thing I just would like you to explain a little bit. So assuming that the referendum goes forward, do you have an estimate of how much the full-time employee model would potentially cut down response time for our town?
Yeah, if you look at, I don't know if it's on the sheet. So right now it's for 90 percentile, we're taking this over 10 minutes to get the first truck over the door. You can take that out in about 90 seconds. You can take almost 9 minutes off that response time.
90 seconds off the response time.
I'm sorry, you can take 9 minutes off that response time.
9 minutes? Okay.
Yes, because they'll be there. They'll be in station. So just about everything is cut in half.
So I mean, I think that's just important for the public to hear that if that happens, instead of 18 minutes, we could be 9 minutes and some change.
Yep. Which could make a big difference.
Any other questions, comments? Chief, thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now we'll do public comment. So anybody here can comment on anything that is not in the agenda, and we'll give you about 2 minutes, not hard on, fast on the time per se. But if anybody wants to speak to an item that's not on the agenda, now's your opportunity to share your thoughts and comments. And if so, come on up to the microphone, sign in your name and address, and then we'll print your name and sign it.
Steve Hudson, 813. Steve Hudson, 813 Harborview Road. like to ask the chairman if he's maybe had any other supervisors, if he had the chance to go back and review videos that I put up, say, 3-4 years ago, prior to the renovation of the room. And I happened to go back and listen to one, and it was pretty amazing how well you could hear. So I would ask maybe to consider, and I know it's not going to be probably a favorable one, but maybe an idea would be to take this flooring out and put it back to carpet like it was, because it's amazing how well you can hear on the video, sitting from the same spot that I videoed from all along. So that's the only thing I'd ask.
Thank you. Anyone else have any public comment?
I just had a quick question. It's not really a comment. I was going to ask the fire guys if they could shed any light on the fatality on Badlands Road the other day. If it was legal for them to shed any light on it or what happened. Or if anybody knows.
Yeah, we don't have any direct knowledge, but you could call the sheriff's office and,
I just wondered,
yeah, if it wasn't, they didn't tell me.
A lot of times those kind of details are considered confidential.
Right, that's
We don't
right.
even get to know the details of it, we just know what happened and not why or anything, so.
Any other public comment? Anybody want to share anything? All right, one last call. Any public comment? I think I've called 3 times, so we'll cross off item 5. Discussion action on contingent liquor license application for Bueno Street Kitchen for Class B and beer and Class C wine combo license. Is there anybody here from Bueno Street Kitchen? Just FYI. All right, and this is in our packet, I assume?
Correct.
All right, why don't you, Madam Clerk, if you could, just give us the update.
Yeah, so Bueno Street Kitchen is taking over Agave to Go spot. They're looking to open up here in the next week or so. They approached me at the end of the week last week, so it really set in super fast, trying to help them get contingent paperwork put in order. So they've turned in most of the paperwork other than their fire inspection, just missing their operator's license for people who will be serving there, and just, I believe, one other document, but other than that, they're pretty much ready to go. Oh, I'm missing their seller's permit. Other than that, they have everything else turned in.
All right, so what is the ask of the board tonight?
So they are asking to get Class B beer license with a Class C liquor, which is wine-only combo, so it's not going to be technically the reserve slot that Agave to Go had. It would be a whole separate combination, so it'd be Class B and Class C combo, so it'd be only $200 for that.
My understanding is that's a step down we're talking about.
Correct. So they won't
Understood.
be, yep, they won't be serving hard liquor there, only beer and wine.
There's also a 2-week delay, so that we figured if this was approved contingent upon the final forms that need to be turned in, and we've set out the publications already, so that's been done, but so it would be July 23rd.
23rd that they can get their
Would be the
license.
first availability for them to.
With it being in the paper for 2 weeks.
Okay. Any questions, anybody? Does anybody have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the liquor license, Class B beer and Class C liquor, wine only, for, let's see here, if I get the name right, this Bueno Street Kitchen LLC, located at 606 Brockton Drive, Suite 8, Hudson.
Contingent on the,
Contingent upon, yes, oh, excuse me, yes, I had that, contingent upon, their living all their paperwork.
and then the required notice period running.
Yes, and required notice.
All right, I'll second your motion. Any further discussion? Hearing shakes of the shakes of the head, we'll say no. All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. We're going to leave number 8 to the very end for obvious reasons. Discussion action on Soobie Surgeons, status of improvements to business property. How you doing, sir?
How are you?
Good, come on up. What kind of good news do you have for us?
I sent in, I'm not sure, that's what I use. I sent in a proposed where the trees should go, with a key that would remove them kind of off on top of the septic. And so we squeeze as many trees as possible on ours, and there's a key showing there's clump birches that have three trees in a clump. And then the rest of the trees are scattered on the boulevard, and so that you see that.
Yes.
Okay, so that we're looking for somewhat approval on that, and then we'll start planting. So that would be good news, I guess.
Well, let's take these one at a time. Have you guys, have supervisors seen the tree layout? It's in your packet here. I think we can potentially give him approval for that plan tonight. Unless there's any concerns about it. So I'm just talking trees at this point.
Do you need a motion?
I'd love a motion.
I'll give you a motion.
All right.
Move approval of the landscaping tree plan as presented.
All right, motion by Dave. Is there a second? Second by Don. Any discussion?
I just wondered, we've got a lot of trees surrounding the drainage fields. I think that's a great field, right?
But the problem is that I only have so much property, and I need to squeeze in trees by your regulations, so I didn't know what else to do, where to put them.
I'm just wondering in terms of it's just maybe a little bit crowded.
Maybe we can move them over to the other side of the driveway and storm vents and squeeze them in there. But when they start growing, the problem is that they will grow into each other.
Yeah, right. I think that's, it looks to me like they're closer than, depending on what kind of trees we're talking about here. So you said they're clump birch?
There's 3 clump birches, 3 stems apiece. That was the way we can get 9 trees into a smaller area, as I was trying to comply with what you're trying to do. So we're trying to be creative. Otherwise, I'm not sure what else we would do. And so we did that, and then we could shift the septic trees over to the other corner of the wells.
Yeah, so I was going to say, looks like according to your landscaping plan, if you're looking at it in a landscape orientation, so you're saying the driveway, which would be facing, I guess that's south, you could move 3 trees to be on the east portion of that?
I think so.
Do you follow where?
Yeah.
Because that to me would have a nice L on the one corner, and then an L on the other corner. It would seem to be symmetrical and makes sense to me. So procedurally, if that's the preferred route, which I believe it is, let's vote down the motion, and we'll do a different motion. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of the motion to approve as originally submitted, signify by saying aye. All those opposed, aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion is defeated. So, by a vote of 4-0, or 0-4, excuse me. So, I would make a motion that with the property owner's agreement, that the 3 trees that are shown on the landscaping plan that are closest to the corner of the building be moved to the boulevard so that it forms an L with the, I guess that would be the east, southeast of the property.
Yeah, so they would be on Rocky Drive, east of the driveway.
Yes.
No, it would be on the storm vents, would it not?
Is that,
You're moving
just to your left, or right, I mean.
This way?
Go right to your right.
Right.
What is,
More trees here.
is that Rocky Drive right there?
This is.
Okay, so you showed some dots there on Rocky towards your right arm. And we don't have any of those. We just have the 3 that are on the other street.
Oh. Pretty interesting. You have a different map?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. What should we do?
But if you can come around there real quick. So what I'm looking at, what I'm proposing is saying, take these 3 trees here.
And this was what we were proposing to do, to take all the trees from the septic and move them on the boulevard.
Yeah.
Should we see? So these would go here.
And this is Rocky Drive.
This is starting next to the bottom.
Okay.
So let's take the septic trees and move them here to the work there.
Okay. That accomplishes the same thing.
Okay.
So, would you mind giving that to the clerk? And just mark it as item 9B, or 9A, sorry. So essentially that, for all the other supervisors, since we don't have the screens working right now, basically, instead of being over that septic system, they're going to be along the boulevard, both Rocky and the other street. So it'll be nice and aligned, it'll make sense by having it on that boulevard. So,
Yeah. So, yeah, just to be clear then, all of the trees around the drain field are eliminated except for those that are right in front on Rocky itself.
right,
Is that what we're saying?
yep.
Okay.
So, just for clarity, I'll make a motion then that we adopt and approve with the property owner agreement that the landscaping tree orientation is depicted on what we marked as 9A, which essentially, to summarize, would put the trees in the boulevard on Rocky and the other street in a sensible line pattern. So that's my motion. Does anybody have a second? Second. Seconded by Don. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right, let's move on to the next piece of your,
And then we would plant the trees in July. So in July.
that's fine. That's fine.
And I have someone lined up to clear a path for our fence, and I've been trying to get them to commit to a date here to put the fence up in July. I'm trying to. And then the parking lot people are supposed to be, I'm trying to nail them down. They committed to come out. But I'm trying to work back and forth with them. I got to move my customers' cars, and I need to move things out of the way while they start cleaning over my customers' cars. And so they want to take me by surprise and say they give me a couple of days. So it looks like it would be somewhere in September, based on the proposal.
Well, anybody have any questions for him at this time?
So the fence will be done by the end of July, and
The
then
trees too, I guess.
and the trees, yes, and then September is the likely, or is that?
That's likely, I think, because they have it the 15th, and they know that date, so I just want to nail them down.
Yeah.
I have accepted their date, and I just need to sign a contract that they have to present to me, so they're a place in St. Paul.
Yeah, okay, so why don't we just have October follow for
That sounds great. I appreciate you making progress. I appreciate you coming in. So Dan's moving that we just have a progress update by October 1st.
Okay.
And you can submit that to the clerk. And if anything anything comes up, just stay in contact with our office.
Okay.
And I don't even know if we need a motion on that, we'll just, that's our understanding, we'll be from getting the minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good luck. All right, number 10, discussion action on revising pay plan for Plan Commission and Board of Adjustment members. I think this was generated by citizen input, but I believe this is also in our, do we have something in the books here? Why don't you go through it, Madam Clerk?
What's that?
Is there anything particular we should know, just the document speaks for itself, or?
So the document that is in your binders is an estimate off of Wisconsin. It's not any of our neighboring towns. I did it, it's late and did not be able to do my research with the neighboring towns. So this is just what was going off of for Wisconsin's average for the Board of Adjustment and Plan Commission.
So, yeah, if you could also just remind us again, also as far as the current compensation.
I believe, John, they get paid
It's $20.
$20 per meeting.
For Plan Commission. It should be noted that there are a couple of individuals that decline payment as well.
But that's the current, then Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustments, I believe, is the same.
And then they typically coincide with payments. From what I can see, is they typically keep Plan Commission and Board of Adjustment around the same pay for the Wisconsin national average, but it's up to you guys and how you want to pursue.
All right, so you basically got three proposals, 7,500 or 125, with your notes there. Well, I'll leave it to the board to make a motion here.
When we get to the point of making a motion, just kind of pre-conversation, I think that there should be a difference in the pay for the board members versus the board chair. Because I think as chair, there's considerable amount more work than the commission members that show up for the meeting. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I agree, yes. Just in the short, yes.
In that case, I would like to offer a motion for both Board of Adjustment and Planning Commission to bump the pay to $75 per meeting for board members and $125 per meeting for the chair.
I'll second that. Any further discussion?
Who seconded that?
I
I'd like to discuss it.
let's discuss.
I want to hear what the neighboring towns are paying, consistent with that. I know a lot of people serve as part of community service and not for the stipend. And yet I know we have to be competitive with time and gas money and so on. I also like to put this in terms of a budget. You know, if we moved it from $20 to $50 per person per meeting, there's roughly 5 people, that's $250 a meeting. So now in our budget, we're looking at another $3,000 just for the planning commission.
Right.
And the Board of Adjustment meets probably 1 to 3 times a year, depending on needs. I'd be much more comfortable in that range than just taking an average from what we have in front of us today.
I feel the same way. I think it's just too radical of a jump to go to 75 right away, and I would support 50 for regular members, and then 100 for the what was it, 100 or 75, for the chair. What do you think, John?
I chaired the Board of Adjustment for 12 years. I viewed it as community service.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that's the standard.
Right.
I think the chairs of those committees do more work, but they seem to be called
We
to that.
also have a chair of the planning commission.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying, the planning commission and the Board of Adjustment.
Right.
But in the past, they've been unilateral. The chair there hasn't been differential pay for the chair versus the other people.
Not in the recent past, Don, but in the longer past, there was a differential. I went back and looked at, for 2005 when I was on planning, and board members at that time were getting 40, and the chair was getting, it was either 80 or 100, I'm not sure which one it was.
Yeah, that was in 2005.
That was in 2005.
I guess I'd want to know, I'm not opposing this tonight, but I want more information. I want to know how we went from that to 20, and I also want to know what the competing towns are paying.
John, as treasurer, I'm sure there's records of what was paid. Can you look into that for next meeting?
Absolutely.
And Madam Clerk, salaries of employees are public, so if you make an open records request, they have to tell you. So maybe we could look into some surrounding towns like Troy, St. Joseph, Warren, and just see what the towns are paying for, if they touch us, if the town touches us, let's find out what the comparables are. They have to tell you. But for tonight's purposes, there is a motion on the floor, so we have to call that question. If it fails, we can always put it on for another meeting.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Well, here's the thing. You are now part of the board, so if you self-comment now, that probably wouldn't be kosher.
However, I did request to be a part of the conversation when
It's true.
I only have one thing for the board to consider, and that would be, I would request that if there is a pay change, that maybe you guys could somehow put in there that the members of the Plan Commission and the Board of Adjustment would be required to attend a class that they would usually hold yearly in River Falls on proper zoning, regulations, and things that we should be up to speed on and trained on. I would say, as being the board chair for a number of years, I felt that a number of the board members weren't really up to speed. I will say this too, I hope not to offend my good friend here, but that the Plan Commission is kind of in the same boat. I think they really should have some better training. So,
Duly noted. Regardless, we have a motion on the floor, so let's call the question on that.
Can you just repeat what the motion is?
The motion was to increase to 75 for regular members of both the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustment, and the chairperson of those committees to receive 125. Everybody understand the motion? All right, let's call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
For the record, that's two of us. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion does not carry. Two for, two opposed.
I'm not opposed to, doing some sort of a triage in the meantime. I mean, 20 seems ridiculous, and, but I think until we have done a more thorough study, I'm not opposed to the idea of temporary estimates.
Well, I don't even know.
It would be a different amount.
Right. Well, we can make more motions too. We're not limiting anybody from making more motions. So if you got a temporary motion,
Well, I make a motion that we put regular board members at $50, chairs at $75, and that I would like a training element in there too, in order to qualify for it. But I think we just have to say that that's the expectation.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. I agree also with the idea of kind of a training element, but I think that's something we're going to need more information on. So I would ask our clerk to reach out to Mr. Hermson and see if he's got some resources on what training he thinks would be good, because he's our chair of the Board of Adjustment, and also reach out to Greg White suggestions for training as well.
One thing that I can offer for training on the planning and zoning is that the changes in state law regarding conditional use permits, the county does have some training materials that they have presented to their committee in the past, and so you might want to reach out to Jason Chief and see what he's got.
I would say the reason I seconded Dan's motion, I don't oppose something needs to be done, but I just want to be good stewards for everybody. And I think if we see what the surrounding areas are doing and we put it in the context of a budget of what needs added to our budget, I think that's a wise course.
Yeah,
I think we can always
agree with that, because what we're doing is we're trying to address an issue which is important, but at the same time, we don't have the ability to adjust our budget that much right now, and so I just don't think that it's a matter of good stewardship. We should, I think it's
The one concern I have with comparing to other municipalities, especially trying St. Joseph, is that they have considerably more staff that are there supporting these functions, and we ask our planning and zoning and our board of adjustment to really be their own staff for everything. So if we get back from St. Joseph that it's $20 or $30 or $40, remember they've got a zoning administrator, they've got some other folks that are there.
I just want to add, and it's for the public, not for us. I'm not debating, but we also try to address that through hiring an SEH to take that burden off from the planning commission and the town board to say, hey, we need staff reports, we need someone looking at this.
Well, I mean, I would just say this, it's very common to do a comparable study. And if you remember with the clerk stuff, I did one. And so I think it's the best practices is to do the comparable study. But in the meantime, we can address this motion so that we're not doing nothing in the meantime. Any further questions?
My last comment on the comparative study is let's just make sure that we put it in context of what the role is compared to our role as best as we can.
Yeah, and I think the sooner we can get the information, you can send out a one-way communication, we'll all have it, and then we'll be able to look into context. You know, like, okay, that's why that number's wrong, or, you know, differences, so that those can be taken into account. So, and it's just a quick email. I mean, you literally will just have to say, making an open records request for the amount of compensation per meeting of blah, 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 that they have to give it to you in a reasonable time. So. All right, I think we beat this issue to death, so let's call the question. All those in favor of Dan's motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, so we have, did you voice your vote?
No, I said aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
So three ayes, 1 nay, motion carries.
And with the obvious caveat that we have to be in attendance at the meetings, right? So, I mean, that's a given.
We have that already.
And we'll visit again. We'll pick it up again with new information.
Yeah, I think, I was wondering if we shouldn't restate, the proposal. What the proposal was $75 for chairs, $50 for other members of the two committees, with continued assessment of the appropriate compensation.
Right. Very good. Well, I think that completes number 10. Number 11, discussion action on changing permitted alcohol sales from 8 a.m. to 6 a.m. All right. My understanding, I was approached by one of our permit holders, I believe it was through it's now called Circle K, and they asked if the beer sales can go back to the pre-COVID. Apparently it was changed during COVID, according to the member. Well, and here's the thing, if it had always been 6 a.m., and we changed it because of COVID, and this would have been before my time, so I can't speak to personal knowledge of this, but the request was to change permitted alcohol sale hours back to 6 a.m. Instead of 8 a.m.
because that's the way it was, and I don't recall the history of it or whatever, but I don't think it makes me.
Yeah. I would make a motion to change the alcohol sales hours, permitted alcohol sale hours back to 6 a.m. instead of the current 8 a.m. Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion, but I guess I apologize to that. I don't even, is this in bars and restaurants, or is this in convenience stores, or what? I'm not even sure what this is about.
Well, apparently, now again, the Circle K is, off sales, so they're a convenience store. And it was relayed to me that during COVID, the sale hours got changed to 8 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. like they had been for years. And so,
Mr. Chairman, I think the hours are 8 a.m. to 6 a.m. is what they're proposing. Not a change from 8 a.m. to 6 a.m. That's the range. The time is somewhere less than that today. It's maybe 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. I don't remember. I don't have any information.
8 a.m. to 6 a.m.
That's what they're proposing.
Okay.
So in other words, there's a 2-hour window where there's no alcohol sales. So you can go home and sober up, I guess.
We can check with the state, but I don't believe you can have sales from
I don't
2
think
a.m.
That was going to be my question, is what is the state?
We'll confirm it with the state.
most places are
Isn't there
closed from 9 to 10
in
a.m. for
conformance
some
with the state?
in
Isn't that
Wisconsin. Some places are prohibited until midnight. I know River Falls has some convenience stores that can sell until midnight, but the typical cutoff is either 9 p.m. or 10 p.m.
right? And I literally think I had it right. I think they want to move it from 8 a.m. starting sales to 6 a.m. starting sales. So I think that is the request. I think I said it correctly.
Okay. I read it differently based on how it's phrased.
Right. So they're not asking to like go extend it into the evening, but for whatever reason, it was changed, supposedly due to COVID, to bump it back to 8 a.m.
Can we postpone this to the next meeting? We should maybe a little more detail on it, just clarification, so that we know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, so let's, if we want to just dot our i's across the t's, let's vote my motion down, and then we'll,
I think that's a fair way of doing it. If they're at a competitive disadvantage because someone right next door is going to sell at 6 a.m., we should know that.
right,
But again, I think we need some more information.
yeah. All right, any other discussion?
I never.
All right, so all those in favor of my motion to change it to back to 6 a.m. signify by saying aye. Opposed? Aye. All right, we'll get some more information. It's not like the issue is dead, but we'll just get some more information. Number 12, discussion action to revise and adopt license forms and violation procedures documents, revision of contract language. I see that we have a couple of examples here in the book. Madam Clerk, can you shed some light on it?
Yes, and we do have our animal control officer here today as well. More so, we had violations we sent out this month here, and we just had quite a few complaints, obviously. You had them, I had them, we were back and forth on them. So we were planning on revising the postcard that gets sent out to hopefully help with some clarification. So to add, you can see the difference between them. One of them just states, I can't see what's on there, but one of them doesn't state whether if your dog is passed or if you moved to outside a township. And I think that would help tremendously on our behalf. Because I mean, I don't know precisely how many people John called, but there was a good chunk of them that all had moved already and was like, I don't have that house anymore, I'm not in your township. So I think that would potentially help take a lot of those invoices away. We used to have somebody that would call all of the people, letting them know, hey, you're coming up on the time where you need to pay or else you will be cited. We don't have that person anymore to do that. He can kind of shed some light on that. And then there's another form that we sent to all of them regarding the violation, presume with those, I think we do need to add in there regarding still needing to pay their pet licensing fee, because quite a few people only sent in the $75 for the violation and still did not pay their $10 fee, or $20 fee, depending on if their dog is spayed or neutered.
So I guess I have a question for you. Thank you for coming. So I guess I was a little surprised when I got so many calls that we went from, you know, obviously they're late because it's now, you know, June. But I was just surprised that we didn't have a mechanism to say, hey, you failed to pay, please pay, rather than threatening or just mailing a citation. So I guess my question is, how do we improve this for our residents so that, you know, we don't just jump to citations? Because I will also say it costs money to prosecute the citations too, so I don't want to just jump to citations necessarily. So I guess I just like your thoughts. What do you think?
Well, things have changed. I mean, people have changed. I know that people used to get on with their tax statement, where it was mailed out with the tax statement that says, hey, licensed dogs. I live in a jurisdiction where they send that out with our taxes. You guys, your taxes are not sent the same way mine are with the mailers that you get. A postcard would be nice, but some of the people, they need reminders every month up until April 1st, which I don't think for cost prevention of, you know, making sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to. Maybe one postcard at the beginning of the year, if it doesn't get sent out with the taxes, should suffice.
Because they have until when to license their dog, which these days.
Well, typically April 1st,
Okay,
but the township can start selling dog licenses in November.
right.
So, I mean, they have 2 months before the first of the year, and then, I mean, they have 6 months. And, you know, I don't know, because some of the people are, you know, my check has been sitting here for 6 months. Well, come on. You know, so I don't know how to appease everybody. I think the simplest thing would be is sending out a postcard at the first of the year, or even maybe March, to say, hey, you have until April 1st. You know, if not, this is what you're going to be facing.
Yeah.
And the form that I did send out, that was the form I was provided when I started here. I didn't write it. But it does state in the ordinance that if a dog does pass, it is your due diligence to contact the town. If you move, just like a motor vehicle or your driver's license, you have to do certain things. And a lot of people are like, well, I can't find it. I'm not here to, it's right here. So,
How much did this letter cost us to send out?
what is it now? The one with each citation, it's what, 78 cents each?
Where is there a bill for your time?
Yep.
So again, how much did it cost?
550.
It was 588 or something like that. It's on your annual report.
For 99 citations, and of course, they're all handwritten. So, I mean, I have jurisdictions that send out 2. And then I go, how much does it cost you to send out 2? And they said, we had over 300 unlicensed dogs. So I'm like, okay, you're, what, $280 lost, and then you do that times 2? They didn't get anything back, you know what I mean? Where they're like, why are we spending money to basically help these people along with something that most people take care of?
Yeah, I think, you know, what I heard from a lot of people is, you know, I write checks so infrequently now because everything's paid online or whatever. We don't really have that ability for the dogs, and then people will lose their mail because it piles up on the counter with the other junk. You know, it happens to me. I've been late. No, I paid my fine. But, you know, I mean, I've I've been late on the dogs, and I just feel like, I feel strongly that we should be giving out a, hey, gentle reminder letter that, you know, at least by, towards the end of, towards the end of March, say, hey, you still haven't paid your dog license, please, you know, if you've lost it, come by, we'll take care of it, you know, whatever, something that's nicer than saying, oh, by the way, if you don't pay the 75, now you're going to go to court and pay 122. A lot of people were upset. That's all I got.
They made my phone ring for 4 days straight, and it's like, well.
Mine did too.
And it, like I said, sending out that would help a lot, because then you can say, we tried to, you know.
How many, if you know off the top of your head, so you put 99 citation letters out, right?
Yep.
And then, that was the ones that were, you know, that didn't pay, from our list. About how many of those have paid the fine since then?
All of them have been taken care of.
Okay.
So,
Whether they.
over half of them were moves
Yep.
of deceased dogs.
Yep.
Okay.
So we got to a point where the letter indicated by June 25th, they were going to get, you know, not served, but these were going to be sent in as actual citations. And so what was left of those that hadn't settled up last week, I just called the remainder, I think there were 40-something left. And I just called everyone, left messages or spoke to people, and almost everyone I talked to was moved or deceased. So we kind of cleared up the pile.
John, about how many licensed dogs do we have in total? If we were to send a post.
I'm going to say 700,
Yeah.
750.
That's likely that would cost more than just sending the letter to the people that don't. Maybe the way forward here is to just make this a little bit more gently worded.
Actually,
Less threatening, I don't know.
we're getting to the point where we're getting, you know, cell phones and emails to the point where we could just blast a text out.
Right.
Now,
Try to send an email out maybe in February or March to see if we can capture a bunch of them and then move to a citation in June.
Yeah, the emails cost nothing.
Right.
The only thing with that is when I do my blasts, it only gets out to 230 people out of the 9,000 residents that we have, because they have to sign up for it personally. And on the dog records, nobody's emails on there, it's only their phone numbers.
That's what I was gonna ask, because I think everybody uses the same general for licensing their dog, and it doesn't have the email or.
Says right here.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
It's our email space on the
it
front.
does on our applications, but it does not.
On the pet licensing website.
The software that's used by the county, that all the municipalities use, does not record the email.
But don't we get this originally in our office?
We have our own copy of that, yes.
So we should have everybody's email, in theory.
If they fill it.
Well, we'll just highlight it next time. You're like, really, you'll have to just give us your email. You know?
We would put the email in the comments section on the pet licensing, so hopefully that, when you hit renew, that comment will move forward, because that's the only spot.
Either way, we're going to manually enter that.
Yeah. And we'll have to go back and go through all the records to get those.
Sounds like a great job for a deputy clerk.
Is there a possibility of an intermediate step where, like 4-1, these are the fees? If 5-1 is doubled, and then after that, you know, I think it's into our citations. That's a possibility.
It's all clearly spelled out in the ordinance.
Yeah.
And I mean, we waited until the first week of June, so you've had,
Yeah.
you know, November, December, January, February, March, April, May.
I have one other data point I'd like to know. So of the people that don't pay, that their dog hasn't passed or they haven't moved uptown, how many people have actually gone to court?
In this town,
Yeah, roughly.
that have actually fought it and showed up at court?
Right.
One.
One, okay, so.
And I was gonna say, he actually took me to U.S. District Court because he said we couldn't, the township couldn't make him license his dog.
So generally, I'm not trying to downplay it, but generally, it looks scary. You know, you're in violation of the ordinance 75. If you don't pay had 122 court costs.
Correct.
But really only 1 or 2 people have actually gone that far.
That have actually shown up.
Well, I know that, I think the form that you used the form that was provided, I get it. I think we can tone this down. If it's okay with the board, I'll take a stab at revising this. Amanda will have to remind me to do it, but yes, I think by next meeting I can come up with a nicer form and you can use it like you're doing now. And then we'll work on, well, we can make the change proposed on the dog license form in your book that says you must contact if you're moving or your dog passes. Right, I think that's common sense.
A lot of gentle text or emails as a reminder.
Yes, and I think that if we, on that same form that we're proposing to put that highlighted area, we should highlight the email too, and then send an email reminder, because that's free. And maybe that'll make it only 50 that we have to set up.
Please.
Yeah.
Well, I think we still got the dent.
All right. Well, as long as we have it here, I don't know if this made it into. I know we signed your contract for the dog service that we use, which we appreciate your service. We did say that we weren't going to process anonymous calls. So if you get if you get a call that says, "I'm not giving my name, but so and so's dog is loose," we don't want you to know. Because if there is a contest, we don't know who called it in, there won't be a witness, right? So
Correct. And that's what I explain to them each time. And I get more calls than you can. And then what do? They call the sheriff's department. Then the sheriff's department calls me, that it comes from them. And then it's like,
well, right, but we're giving you cover with the sheriff's office, because we are directly
right. Yep.
responding to anonymous calls.
Yep.
So, as long as you're here, I just want to reinforce that we have made a change there. And of course, if you get somebody who says, "I am so-and-so, I'm sick of this dog being helping a puncher," we'll do it, you know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
So,
No, I'm telling people, hey, if I'm going to issue citations and stuff, I need a witness. And then they'll go, never mind.
right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, then problem solved.
Right.
All right, I don't think we need any action items. I think we're just going to revise the forms, and we'll work on the email. We'll highlight the email, and I'll take a stab at this with, I'm sure, about 5 reminders from Amanda to do it.
I can remind you.
All right, that sounds good too.
So I remind her because I didn't like people yelling at me. It was,
I am motivated as well, because there was a lot of calls. All right, so thank you again for coming. Let's move on to
perfect. Thank you.
thanks, Carol. Item 13, discussion adding action on approval on adding a poll worker, people Just kidding. The proposal is to add Dan Brooks, who resides in the town, as a poll worker for November 2026 election. Is your motion to approve?
Move to add Dan Brooks to the poll worker roster.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Don. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Discussion action on Kinsley subdivision preliminary plat. Is there somebody here from? Let me disassemble my book so I can look at what was provided here. Amanda, this is the 2 documents, right?
And there's a bunch more over there in the counter.
Okay. Sir, why don't you state your name and write it down there when you get a chance?
Ben Schmidt, Twin Cities Land Development, 3 Sioux Lane, North Oaks, Minnesota. Just in front of you with our preliminary plat for Kinsley Ridge. We were the primary of the concept plan a couple of months ago. Nothing has really changed from the concept plan, and one of the points of discussion at Planning Commission, and here was just lot 1, which is a lot that's remaining intact as it sits, would have the ability to be split just one time, and how would we refrain that from being split more than that? I think we submitted some documents to that effect, which I think our Planning Commission satisfied members of that commission, so really not a lot. I'm happy to stand for questions, not a lot for me to necessarily talk about until you need me to.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Yes, please, help yourself.
I mentioned this, or kind of alluded to it last time this came before us, but thinking about this even more, I am of the opinion that this arrangement with 2-acre lots and 139-acre lot, in order to meet the minimum average lot requirement for a subdivision, is somewhat out of the intended purpose of a average minimum lot size. It's kind of trying to work around something in a way that I don't necessarily think is the spirit of what our ordinance is trying to accomplish, which is to keep the density a little bit lower than this, a little bit higher than this. No, lower density. Yeah, I said it right the first time. So that's my comment.
And is that, just so I can understand it, David, is the inclusion of lot 1 bumps the average quite a bit?
Right, it bumps the average up, but that sits off to the side. It's not even really part of the subdivision in some ways. It's not connected by road. I just feel like it's not in the spirit of our ordinance. Now, whether or not that means we should approve it or not approve it, I don't know, but I wanted to put that out there.
That's a fair question. Anybody else have any questions, comments for the gentleman?
I have a question on all of the purple that's on your map. So the grid list says contiguous buildable area.
Okay?
And the reason I'm asking that is I raised that at the last meeting. I don't oppose this, I just want to make sure we're doing it properly. The 40-acre lot, it now shows, I think, a 3-acre, yeah, a 3-acre lot that we have as a buildable contiguous lot, which I will split in the future. Because we talked about that, we want to make sure we have deed restrictions and in our motions and it's done properly. We've got a new board, 20 years in the future, now we want 100 homes on that.
Correct.
That wasn't the spirit of intent of what we're doing. So my question is contiguous on the what is your company's definition of contiguous buildable area? Let me just keep it simple.
Yeah, so we looked at just that, on that lot, what can we get to? And I think on that larger piece, what we talked about was, I think there was some conversation about how would you get there via the road. My recollection, yeah, we talked about how you get there via the road. Is there a way that, what is it on that one? When we looked at that piece, we really did look at confining that area just to what you could access. My memory is how we could access that from this subdivision. And again, showing that they maybe split this thing into 2, but that would be it.
And the access would be from the existing North Meadow Drive, not from any newly proposed roads.
Correct.
Okay. I don't want to slow us down tonight, but I think this is an important discussion.
I agree.
The contiguous buildable area on the other remaining part of it, even though you have now have 37 acres left, if you looked at areas where that could be built then too, you would access that off from North Meadow Drive.
Yeah, so for better or worse, what we did was find that 3-acre piece and set that aside. We didn't necessarily look at what the rest of it would be,
Okay.
or could be.
Okay, then I do want to go a little bit deeper into why I asked my question about contiguous building area. that's on steep slopes, 20%, 30% areas. And we've had a tremendous amount of flooding in the past, where in Indigo Ponds and other ones, you think I'm up high, it's not going to flood. And yet, lo and behold, those basins contain so much water. So I have a two-part question. I think it's called like lower buildable access or something, where you set the elevation of your home in relation to your stormwater management plan, and then it's for like a 100-year flood or a 500-year flood. And I don't want to slow us down, but what we found was that we set it for a 100-year flood, and lo and behold, we got a 500-year flood, and now people have water coming into their patio door at the lower level. I think that's something as we look at the stormwater management part of this, our task was to do it properly.
Sure, and yeah, unfortunately, I can't say what, I don't know standing here what, if it was lower floor or lowest floor opening was what was used. I mean, we certainly would have adhered to what the requirements were, but I can't tell you with 100% certainty standing here what it was.
Okay, and then my last comment on that, I'm not opposing this, and my questions are adversarial towards it.
Understood.
But looking at lot like 61, way in the southwest corner of your proposed plat.
Yeah.
You have drainage, you have steep slopes, and it comes back to what Mr. Bartelsall was saying. If we've now taken a 2.5 acre average and collapsed them down to 2, we're compressing all of these constraints from lower building access, contiguous building area. We're compressing it into smaller and smaller areas. So my question is, are you, on behalf of these people, are you looking at where you can build a home on these sites individually as you lay them out?
For sure. That absolutely was part of the process. And, one of the challenges when you're looking at a site this big on pieces of paper, of course, is the little purple area looks pretty small on a piece of paper in reality. Now, granted, it's not 100 acres, I understand, but it's still a decent size. So we feel very comfortable that each one of these lots has an absolute good spot to build a home, and one that would comply with all requirements and not put us in a position where we've got any concerns over flooding and lowest floor elevation problems. So we absolutely feel very, very comfortable with that.
And then I apologize, I have these maps in front of me. I don't know where I read it. Maybe the planning commission report. But this is a phased development, correct?
Yeah.
So many lots.
Yeah.
Can you just refresh the board as to what your phasing plan is?
Yeah, we would anticipate 2 or 3 phases. Phase 1 being kind of the south, I don't know if we've got a plan in here for phasing, but phase 1 being kind of the southeast, 40% of it, if you will. Oh, perfect. Yeah, so that's okay. Yeah, so we have 3 phases, so we've got kind of the screen's working on. I'm going to step around so I'm a little bit closer if that's all right. Not written in stone, of course. What we envisioned was a phase 1A, if you will. We did phase 1 together, but a phase 1A that we're trying to get done this year, which would be just kind of that, come in and poke our head and do the one cul-de-sac. A phase 1B, we would expect to do next year, if all goes well. That is, maybe gets us to half of it. And then phase 2, I would expect, is 2 years after that. So we would expect, go back to the microphone here. We'd expect development work, not houses constructed, but development work to be done in, say, 4 years, is what our expectation is. House construction, some years after.
I guess I want to follow up with Supervisor Barzal's concern. How much would it kill the feasibility of your project if, say, you took out 10 lots and spread out?
I mean, it's real. I mean, the unfortunate part in today's day and age, every foot of street is real money, and so, and every acre of land is real. And so, I mean, in this idea of transferring averaging density with one bigger remaining lot was certainly a big part of what we looked feasibility of the project. My understanding, now you're making my memory work harder than I like it to on a nighttime meeting. My understanding was this is something that had been done in the township, and so we felt like we weren't out of bounds in doing this. And we've got kind of a unique situation in terms of our seller is a family that desires to remain on this land, or own the land, and so they'll live there, but own some of this land in perpetuity and not have it be developed. And so in our minds, this was a way to kind of get them value for the land that they want to sell, allow them to keep a piece that stays the way it is forever, and still allow us to have a project that from a density perspective and cost perspective gets us into the range of lot prices that just makes it a little more viable and feasible for people who want to buy a house that isn't unbelievably expensive, at all expensive.
So, I get your answer, but I didn't really hear an answer to it. Would 10 less lots kill this?
I'd have to go back and look at what our numbers are. I mean, it was definitely, this was our plan based on what we're paying and what our costs are going to be.
You know, I just think that the minimum lot size is probably, aside from annexation, the second biggest issue to the residents of the town. Because what it means is that we have higher density, and we really are trying to strive to be that rural community with space. And I guess I share Supervisor Weinzel's concerns that this is a little denser than maybe we would hope. So if you could look into it, like I said, I would just like to see how it would affect if we had 10 less lots.
Yeah, and obviously, if that's what you tell us to do, we're going to have to look at that. I mean, one of the things I guess I put back is if the goal is to preserve some open spaces, one of the things that we looked at, that, I mean, now you've got if we give everyone, if our average is 2 acres, remove the average to 2.5 acres, that means there's a few less houses out there, right? But in terms of how it feels, it probably isn't very different. You have kind of the same amount of roads, and when you're driving down that road, you feel about the same. Versus having this area that is the one large lot being maintained in its way, either as one lot or two in perpetuity. I mean, I'd argue, does that feel better? I mean, here we've got a large open space that people can truly see and feel as being open space versus maybe that gets developed as, if we were to go back and reduce this by 10 lots, then I think that takes off the table the idea of this 40-acre piece being set aside as kind of permanent, non-developed area. And so my question back would be, which one's better or worse? And obviously, you can decide that, but just that would be my kind of thought-provoking question back.
And the reason I just arbitrarily said 10, right? I mean, because the math is easy, but see if there's some room for compromise to get that number a little bit higher, a little bit less dense. And we don't want to hurt your bottom line too bad either. Anybody who wants to make money, it's part of the deal, right? So, but I think that if there was some, all right, this would be feasible. We'd love to see it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right?
So, did that capture your concerns as well, Supervisor Martin?
Yes, absolutely. And I will add that I do very much appreciate that the family is a very important part of this community, and their word on what they want to do with Lot 1 carries a lot of weight with me.
Agreed.
But the problem is in 50 years now, this will be here, and maybe we shouldn't care about that far out, but we're supposed to, so.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I guess I just want to make sure we're clear on is, again, because that 50-year question is what came up when we talked about this at the concept plan. We absolutely have put the requirements in place, so 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, that lot can only be split into a couple. And that would be a deed restriction that would sit on that deed that would restrict it, so it isn't at the whim of a future township board.
Yeah. Deed restrictions sometimes are only as good as the lawyers that fight them. That's
Sure.
being a snob, that's true. So, I'm not saying I'm not voting against this, but I do appreciate the idea that we would kind of look at it as a compromise that would move it to just a little bit lower density.
Do we have to approve this or anything? Is this?
I have a couple of questions too. So I just want to clarify, on the phase one, are you saying that the only access to the subdivision would be off of Blue Jay?
Correct.
So, so essentially, I don't know, we have a limitation as far as how many feet you can go without
Secondary
access. And are we in compliance with that?
My understanding is we are. You wouldn't necessarily, I mean, if you approve the preliminary plat, you haven't approved the phasing plan. Our phasing plan is really more illustrative. We give you an idea that we're not intending to develop it all at once. And as part of the final plat, we have to make sure that we adhere to all those requirements.
Okay. And as far as the plans to extend, Bluestem and Clover, I would expect that goes to, what is that, UU? Is it,
Yeah, no, go on. To be,
where
yeah, Badlands Road.
or Badlands, yeah. Badlands, yeah. So, is that the intent, right? To go to Badlands, or where were these,
You're saying the cul-de-sacs on the north side?
yeah, the ends of the roads, right?
Yes, I mean, they're a cul-de-sac currently. There would be a right-of-way through there that would allow them to be extended should the area north of this ever get developed. But not part of this project, because again, the area north is not part of this project.
Yeah, okay. But at the same time, I think that, for the highway department, they want at least a tees up there or something like that, so that the plows can turn around.
They would be a cul-de-sac that would be made a temporary cul-de-sac that would feel like a permanent cul-de-sac, and so it would meet the cul-de-sac requirements. Just being temporary in nature in terms of like, the owners would know there's a chance this road could go through should something develop to the north.
Okay.
So I want to make sure I understand it. You said about Clover Way and Bluestem Trail then when they go to the north boundary line?
Yeah.
Big temporary cul-de-sac?
Yeah.
Paved?
What's that?
Paved?
Yep.
I think you should show that on here so we can see that on how that would lay out. I mean, you show cul-de-sac,
Gotcha.
well,
Yeah.
and everything else. And now,
Showing on this one. So,
we've run into that other times, when the snowplow gets there, and now he backs into somebody's driveway to turn around.
yeah, so from a preliminary plat perspective, it is just a right-of-way, not a cul-de-sac right-of-way, it's a right-of-way that goes up. There would be a easement that would be, we'd need a little extra area outside of the right-of-way, and so there'd be an easement that would exist there, and then we would pave that. So for sure, typically it isn't shown on the preliminary plat because it's not technically right-of-way, so that we can go forward. But it absolutely would be part of the developer's agreement that we would have. So for sure, that is how it would end up.
Well, I agree with Dan, I think we need to show that as a requirement.
I think it was included on the construction plans as part of the preliminary plats.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Let's have a little discussion. First of all, do we need to approve this in any way tonight? And what action do we need to take, I guess is my biggest question. Because this is, the way it's noticed on here is discussion action on subdivision preliminary plat. Planning Commission approved this yet?
We recommended it to you.
Okay. Do you have any input that would be helpful for us?
I was just checking the ordinance and that the town board needs to make a decision within 90 days of the application.
And the application is completed?
About 30 days 14th of May. So Christine,
Are there any concerns, Eric, in regard to traffic, with this? Because I mean, we're kind of, Blue Jay is, Chickadee, of course, is, now we're kind of going into these roads that are not really collectors. I mean, are there concerns on that side? As far as
no, even, I'll say lower, I don't want to say collector, but just the interior streets are similar in design to your collector streets in size. And so residential development, it obviously creates more traffic that can typically be sustained on a typical town road. Rather than, Badlands is a little bit different, unique compared to others scattered around roads. So no, there's not any concerns from my standpoint.
Do we have a date of when the application is complete?
Middle of August, it sounds like. Did you say May?
Middle of May.
So the planning commission looked at this in the June meeting,
That's correct, the
Correct.
June 15th.
and you recommended approval.
Yes, we did.
And then we also got comments back, we also got approval waiting on the town checklist, so it's checklist from the town, from the county. So the county has completed their review.
All right, Greg, why don't you come forward? My question to you is one of the people on the planning commission, was the density average addressed and discussed at the planning commission level?
Not directly, no.
Okay. Can you give an explanation as to why not?
I liken it to, we've seen other developments where there's been outlots similar to this 39-acre lot, where they've made like parks, so to speak, or play areas. And it hasn't been done a lot in the town, but I've seen probably 3 I can think of. And
Well, and I guess that's my question. So if we, for what remaining land is left that hasn't been developed, right? If it's going to be the new norm that we knock off a 40-acre or, big, say a quarter of the area, doesn't matter what size, right? And that's going to be a large parcel that, averages out the remaining lots of 2 acres or 1.89 or whatever. Are we setting a precedent here?
I don't believe so, because for 2 reasons. These are personal opinions. One, there's a lot of wildlife on that 39-acre at times. It's green space. We're providing and preserving it. In my mind, we're preserving some open space for the town or within the town. In Eric's review letter to the commission, he did remind us that in our comprehensive plan, we should be looking at cluster developments, which is another option where we could cluster these lots around, let's say, this 39-acre lot, for example, which is very much more difficult to do. It's not conducive for the developer. It's not conducive to the homeowners running typically you're not in 2-acre lots or in 1-acre lots with larger
space, for example. You don't see a lot of it. That, like 20 years ago, cluster developments were kind of a thing, but they didn't work out because the neighbors couldn't get along. So,
Greg, is it true that our ordinance for currently wouldn't even allow for cluster, even though it's in our comprehensive plan? I believe that our ordinances would not even allow for cluster development at this point.
I'm not quite sure, but yeah, it'd be difficult to do, I think.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it looks, fairly packed, to me. On the other hand, I think that, the option was to have all 2¼ acre lots or something like that, and, it essentially ate up that big lot one. To me, that's not an improvement. I like the idea of, area that's kind of set aside for wildlife. I think that's a good idea, to have that. So, it would be nice, if this, we have just a few less lots in here, but I do think at this point, with the timing of it and so forth like that, we have to turn this down, and then they'd have to resubmit because of our timing. If we didn't do it.
Well, to that last point only, if it was mid-May, right, and we had, that would put the deadline in mid-August, 90 days. We will have August, whatever, 5th or so meeting. Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Not you, Greg.
Thank you.
Is it possible to get us if it's not possible, that's fine. I mean, I just want to know, is it possible that we could, while still maintaining the big open space, and it would be really nice if it was centered, but it's not, and just, leaving that as is, or close to as is, but maybe, some of those lots are getting kind of packed. If we could, how difficult would it be for you to get a similar setup with just maybe a few less lots? Like I said, 10 may not be the right number, right? And then it would be too many. But, if we could get somewhat closer to even 2.10, right? It's just feels a little less on top of each other. Is it possible you could get something to us before the August meeting?
Yeah, it's possible. I guess one of the questions I might have for you is, I'm concerned about this. Doesn't have to be your concern, I understand that, but just my concern is our construction season gets short, because we know we still got to get a final plat in front of you before we can do much.
Here's the deal. We'll call a special meeting if we have to, right? If you can get it to us fast, we can call a special meeting for the end of middle of July for all that matters, right? I guess I would feel more comfortable. This is just me. I'm only one vote. I would feel more comfortable seeing that average lot size go up just a little bit. And whether that's 5 less, 10 less, I don't know what the number is. I don't want to make it unprofitable for you either, but that's my concern. So if you could, if you're interested in doing that, we would call a special meeting. I'll call it, no problem, and
let's just say the number was 5 lots. Let's say that's what you said, let's just say we took 5 lots out. Are people going to be okay with the fact then that the 39-acre piece could get split into 6 lots or something based on the math? I mean, we did this based on the math, right? Meaning and to be clear, it does meet the 2-acre minimum. I understand that we can disagree as to the spirit of it, I understand, but we didn't make that number up. And so then the question becomes, if we take those out of the development, are people comfortable knowing that they might go back into what could be a future development in that 40-acre parcel?
The comments that Greg and Dan made regarding keeping that space open, I personally would prioritize keeping that 39-acre lot. I am not suggesting that it's a good idea to cut into that. I think that, as I sit here thinking about this, this is kind of a unique case. It's a unique location. And, the spirit of the ordinance, et cetera, I'm kind of walking back a little bit and saying maybe this does make more sense now that I understand some of the thought processes.
Yeah, I think a couple of things, maybe going back to what Planning Commissioner Greg said, is, and I agree, I don't know who said it, but you've got an ordinance that wouldn't allow cluster development. I think I agree with that, but you've got maybe a comp plan that talks about cluster development. One of the reasons that, and I've been doing this a long time, and you're right, that cluster development's got popular for a little while. Why are they less popular now? A couple of things. One is, you ended up with this open space that was kind of cut up, right? It wasn't necessarily like one big open space that could be used by wildlife and whatnot. And the other big thing was, you ended up with community septics that are not awesome, it seems. And so one nice thing about this is we use kind of standard, long tried and true normal septic systems. And I think, we just were a believer in the fact that this one big lot would stay there and kind of be there in perpetuity. So if the direction to us is this is what you've got to do, well then we're going to listen, right? But that's why I want to make sure I want to have clear direction as to what is expected, because I want to come back with what you're looking for. We believe in this, and I'm so hopeful, right? Yeah. Got a few more minutes, but we'll listen to what you have to say.
All right. Thank you for coming back. I don't know, David, you seem to not be as concerned about this anymore.
I'm still concerned, but I'm being convinced that the uniqueness of this location and development warrants this. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to approve this for every subdivision that comes in.
No, my concern is that we do, we're going to have to. We're basically saying this is fine, leaving a big chunk.
Yeah, because it does meet the letter of the law.
It does. I agree.
And so when I say it's not in the spirit, that that's not going to play out well in court if it were to come up with it to that point.
Dan and Don, what do you think about, is it even possible to delay, or should we?
This is what I think on behalf of my supervisor's spot. We have an ordinance in place, we have rules in place. The applicant played with the rules. It says you have to have a 2.5 acre average lot size, but you can go down to 2 acre minimum, correct? And we have a unique piece of property, in my humble opinion. 20%, that's what I kept talking about tonight, about 20%, 30% slopes. It's unique. If you can preserve close to a 40-acre chunk of open space in perpetuity, that's a good thing. And other than these quibbles with the cul-de-sac at the end of the road, you're right about clusters, because the septic got in the way of it, and who's going to pay for what got in the way of it. But you're also right, SEH in every one of their correspondences, hey, why don't you look at cluster? I'm saying as a compliment, here's how you can do 3 different cluster plans, right? So we preserve open space. Well, this is a plan that preserves open space, and it meets the spirit of our law, and they've done a tremendous amount. We're at the preliminary plat stage, where we're sending them off to the county for stormwater management calculations. So I think it might be a little late for us to go back and start trying to
Okay.
model.
Again, I just want to give you a chance to weigh in before we vote.
Yeah, I guess I, as Supervisor Jordan has pointed out, I think they're following the ordinance. Preserving that big piece of land, I think, is a good thing. And I think, that they're doing, what they should be doing. It would be nice to see it a little less dense, but I'm not going to go over that.
Right, so I think we've discussed the matter. Somebody make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat that's presented, subject to the conditions that were asked in the planning commission meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? What were those?
Let SEH.
I don't have them, I don't have the minutes, but it was to allow single-family residential by special exception on the lots. Because in your A district, residential dwellings are not permitted, they're only permitted by special exception, which is kind of an oddity. You're creating residential lots and you need a special exception, rather than each individual lot come in. This is a way that you can approve that plat-wide. So they included special allow single-family dwelling per special exception, restrict driveway access on Blue Jay Lane for lots 3 through 7 and 61 through 63. So this wouldn't be double fronted. And that the driveways be accepted as shown on the engineering plans, which a few of them, one of the cul-de-sac for sure, but then there were a couple other that were just under 100 feet apart.
And I guess as long as we're making a more formal motion, then also that we show cul-de-sacs at the end of Clover Way and Blue Stem Trail.
Yeah, you're okay with that amendment for the second?
I agree with that, yes.
All right. Everybody understand the motion? All right. All those in favor of the motion as presented by Mr. Jordan, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. All right. Mr. Barnes, take it away.
Okay. We heard the report from the chief and a little bit of the conversation about kind of the timing of what the city is doing with their proposed expansion to go to full-time. So I tried to do a little bit of research, a little bit of Google search, as I prefer to call it, and tried to put together kind of a timeline for what's going to happen and my thoughts on what might be in the best interest of the town. As we look at the fire contract that we have with the city, we really do not have much, if any, say whatsoever in how much they want to charge or what their total budget is. We have a contracted agreement for how much of the percentage of the budget we pay, but the city sets that budget. So if the city does vote on the 20th to go forward with a referendum, and if the referendum does pass, the full-time fire department will happen, and our costs will go up, and we will be contractually obligated to pay for that through 2040. So then what do? We have to come up with, John, what was it? $600,000, something, $650,000 a year additional, which sounds absolutely insane, and it is, but that's the reality of where the cost of fire protection is going. There are potentially options for some short-term borrowing that would allow us to have a balanced budget for this year, but that's not going to work long-term because then we're just kicking the can down the road and incurring interest payments that the town residents would have to pay for. So from my perspective, the lowest cost way for the town residents with the tax impact is to go for a referendum to exceed the levy limit that we have by state law. The levy limit, by the way, which I think is a great law, because it does force when you want to increase spending that you have to go to your residents and explain the need and let them vote on it and make the final decision on that. But if it gets voted down, we're going to be faced with some very difficult problems financially. So that's my opening comments. I gave you guys a packet of information and I would entertain any questions that you have. Anything that you want me to go look at, anything you want me to do. We would have to submit a referendum to the county and the state by the 26th of August in order to make the November ballot. Again, there's a possibility of looking at some short-term finance for covering 2027 since it would only be for half the year and not having to go to a referendum right now so that we don't incur that expense before we find out what happens with the city, but there is some trade-off in cost there.
Dave, I read through your synopsis, which I think is great. I just want to touch on because I'm up to speed, but it's a complicated issue. The fire protection now from 2025 to 2026 is going up roughly $80,000 or 19%.
They're not going up, it went up. That was the budget that was approved last October.
Thank you.
It was an $80,000 increase.
Okay, so that's the touchstone I want. So it went up. Now if the city approves their expansion, we're in it.
Right.
It's not a either or. If we go to, and I'm just zeroing in on your recommendation number 2, the annual recurring levy override. If that gets put on the ballot for a referendum, I just want to make sure I understand. You're saying that we need to be doing that this fall as opposed to next April?
What I'm saying is that it would be preferable to do it this fall from a total cost standpoint, if we believe that the city's referendum is going to pass.
Okay.
So, and the difference is only in there is a cost involved. Right, so we don't have enough to just pay this out of our piles of money that John keeps in the back room.
Then I have a 2-part question on that. I'm not trying to jump ahead.
Yeah.
I'm trying to kind of streamline it tonight. That recurring levy, because we try to do that with the roads, and we have sunset provisions in there, we do it 2 years at a time. How would you envision that coming together? Is that annually it's renewed, or because I'm assuming this is going to be a budget that keeps going like this?
Right, and that was something I struggled with a little bit, and that's why I made the recommendation of doing it this year and doing it for $650, because that gives you some averaging over the next 10 years. It's kind of the average for 10 years. Whereas if we wait until next year, we'll have to ask for more money for a kind of a rolling 10-year. The city's referendum, what they're doing is they are asking us for 10 years, and they believe in 10 years they're going to come up with a different way to pay it. I don't think we have that option. We can't levy sales taxes and wheel taxes and things like that like the city can.
Okay,
So to specifically answer your question, Don, my recommendation is that this is a permanent recurring levy override.
and much like school districts, if we need more money on top of that, and we don't have it in our budget to do, then we'd have to do another referendum.
That is true, yes. but that might not be for 10 years.
Okay, then I have one quick, what I call the nuclear option. Everything doesn't go through. It goes through in the city, it doesn't go through here. I've been told repeatedly we have the ability to borrow money based on our good fiscal stewardship.
That's right.
That's always a fallback, fail-safe option, is that? I just want to kind of get it in our discussion.
Technically, that's true, and I think I even listed that here, is that we would borrow. The problem with that, of course, is that you're now borrowing for an operational expense, so you have to borrow that every year, and at some point you have to start paying it back. And that still is going to add a debt levy to all of our residents' taxes, and it will be more than a referendum override levy because we have to pay interest.
But it also would impact our ability to borrow for other projects, which we might need.
The other nuclear option is that, longer term, is that we need to at least look into the idea of having our own fire department in the future. I think we're kidding ourselves if we think that somehow the city is going to stabilize their costs for us. And it may end up that we kind of model things out, but that's a better way to go. And I think that's what Troy is really doing. This is my personal opinion. That's what Troy is really doing by building their own fire station. They're giving themselves a future option. So not saying we do that now, but it's something that needs to be looked at for long term.
Well, and I think one of the reasons that Troy was doing it too is because they're so far away from the fire department that insurance for the citizens is quite high, and that would be a benefit for us as well. Should long term we decide to do that. So
As developments come in and we expand, and it's all on this side of town, it all becomes further away from. There's more traffic. The response times get longer, not shorter. Even if it's only 90 seconds for them to slide down a pole and hop in a truck. So that's the effort. Yeah, it's our responsibility.
thank you for putting together such a detailed status of where we're at. I think, would you agree with me, David, that we really need to see if Hudson's going to put it on the ballot before we can really take the next action?
Yeah, I mostly agree with you, except that I think that we should start the process of looking at how we would write this question and get some legal review, because it is a very specific way that these questions have to be written. And we do that now so that after July 20th, we have our first week in August meeting. At that point, we can vote whether or not we would go forward, and we would be ready to get it in time to have the review done.
All right. I make a motion that we authorize expenditure for our town attorney to draft a sample referendum ballot question in time for the August meeting. Is there a
Second that.
Any further discussion?
Not on that particular topic.
The city is also, if they vote on the 20th, go forward, they are working on their own referendum questions, so we can get a copy of that. But I believe cities might have a slightly different way of how they word things, so I don't know if that would be a lot of help to us, but Paul would certainly know.
Very good. All right. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor of the motion to authorize the attorney to draft a ballot question by August 1st, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And we're still discussing general fire, so what did you have, Dan?
Yeah, I'm just, so when we talk about $600,000, let's say that because of our call volume, that we actually go down to 20% instead of 25%. What does that do to that number?
It is my understanding that we can word the question such that it's up to 650,000, so that each year we can determine what that levy would be for that portion of the levy. So if we don't need 650, we only need 500, then that's what we're levy.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm trying to get is a handle on, or really what is it really going to cost us?
Yeah, and along those lines, what's an unknown for me right now is what's the impact to the already ongoing costs. I hope it goes down a little bit. If they've now got some full-time people that are always there, that they'll have less on-call paid volunteers that get dispatched for each call, and perhaps the ongoing operational cost maybe stays flat or even goes down. That's why I was asking the chief for a look at budgets sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do think that it makes sense for us to research the idea of our own fire department, because I do think that a lot of these calls, they don't require, big-time trucks, frankly, and, there may be a little bit of equipment overkill there. And we do have mutual aid agreements, with, in the event that kind of thing is needed, so. I just think that I think that I have just concerns about, the whole, mentality, of, what's needed, for fire protection.
Yeah, the divergence between what the city needs and what the town needs is increasing, not coming together, I think is a way to say what we were getting at.
Right. And I do think, there's now we do have the assessment that we make, on calls, fire calls. There are some situations where they're waived. I'm trying to get, part of what my question was is to get into, kind of some of the situations where, maybe we would waive or maybe we should have a, an incremental, something else, for the fire alarm kind of a situation or whatever, because, you don't necessarily want to hit somebody with $800, for a faulty fire alarm. But on the other hand, they're paying for a service, that does this, and, they have to take care of all the situations. And if they, the combination creates costs, then there should be some sort of.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we have some known properties in the town that are repeat offenders and false alarms. And so I think it's worth a conversation on incentivizing them to stop that.
Right, yeah, because call counts are important to what it costs us. So.
I tell you also that thanks to John, he's kind of looked in at some of the details on what our calls are, and we are being not charged, but on an accounting standpoint, we are being accounted for calls in the Little River that are actually up by the falls, which is in St. Joe. And that should be a mutual aid call that is shared by everybody, not just by us. So I intend to have a conversation with the fire commission about that. That was 6 of them this year already?
Yeah, 7, and they should be removed from our
5% of our calls.
Well, that's,
Getting back to what Dan said about, I put it on this month's fire report that there are calls that have been no billed because of a false alarm. So the fire department will get notified, they'll go out. As they're going out there, they'll get the call that, they resolved that it's a false alarm. And so then they call off the fire truck call. So the chief or somebody's going out on this call, but we still get assessed for that. And so I asked what the city president does, and he said that there were, they got a warning the first time that happens. I'm not going to charge them to let them know what the charge will be the next time that happens. So that's the model I've used. That's why you're seeing those, but you see how many there are. There's a number of false alarm calls.
Some of them we can't bill because we don't know who to bill either. If it's a medical emergency, we may not be able to get the information because of HIPAA.
Well, we should be able to get
We'll poke at that more, but that seems to not be the case at this point.
Well, there are other ways to figure it out. But anyway, do we need any more action on this item for tonight?
We do not on this one.
Okay. Let's go on to number 16 then. Now, discussion action potentially improves zoning ordinances to ensure we are positioned to protect town residents and resources. Again, without discussing, kind of got some feedback from our attorneys at the closed session, so that pretty much takes care of item 16 based on what we...
So, Mr. Chairman, I apologize, but I worded this one incorrectly.
Okay.
I forgot a word, and or Amanda dropped the word that this was supposed to be about data centers, data center ordinances. So it's not noticed correctly, so I don't think we can talk about it tonight.
See, I thought this was about the potential... Anyway, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's not noticed correctly, so I don't think we can talk about it tonight.
All right. We'll put data centers on for the next one. So, with that, the only thing that's remaining on the item is number 8, and I will recuse myself. Dan, you are now chair for this portion, and I will take the spot over here. I better sign in.
Has everybody seen the application for special event? Are there any questions on it?
Questions?
Just by way of background on this one, when we talked about the agricultural piece of picking of the grapes and the processing, that doesn't need a permit, as by our agreement that we reached a long time ago. But I want to be safe, and if it turns into a social gathering after we're done, which is going to is the plan, I better apply for the special exception permit just to be on the safe side, and also because there will be more, I won't be able to have everybody on the top portion of our property, so there will be some spillover for parking into the cul-de-sac street. So just to be on the safe side, I did want to apply for the special event permit. I've indicated as briefly as I can just what it all entails. So I'll stand for any questions, but it was more just to be safe that I don't want to push the envelope, you know what I mean? So I thought it would be safer just to apply for it. So.
Just a question, could you, or would you be willing to send out a postcard 3 weeks ahead of time to everyone else on the cul-de-sac, movement maybe to the effect that you're holding an event that's been approved by the town board, if it has been, and that there may be parking on the street?
Well, I guess I could. My concern is I don't have a lot of communication with those folks involved, and I don't know if it would be wanted. So what I think we could do potentially is, I can either send out a postcard or the town can send out a postcard saying there will be a special event, there will be a special event. I just don't know how welcome it would be direct contact. That's my concern.
I don't think we require that of others when they have a special event.
No, but we don't have too many special events that are on a cul-de-sac. I don't know when, in terms of the residential standpoints.
My other question is, I assume the numbers of the parking is from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm assuming, will everybody come at once? Will probably come and go throughout the day?
It'll be a come and go throughout the day. So some people won't really want to pick grapes and process wine because that's not the fun part, right? Some people do consider it the fun part. So I would think that we've never had a situation where it's all 50 people all at once. It'll be be staggered throughout the day. So who knows, it might work out with carpooling, and we actually can fit everybody up on and that will, as part of the parking control, whenever we have an event, even if it's like a private birthday party, we try to have somebody marshal the cars at the base of the driveway so that it's parked logically and, use our space as efficiently as possible. And we'll definitely do that. We'll assign somebody to monitor parking at the base of the driveway. So.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Fowler? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the special event permit for Fowler Wines.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion?
Just as per our form, you'll have the liability policy and things for.
Thank you. Which I can provide a copy of that to the clerk via email with the deck page and the policy.
I have no further questions.
Do you want to add or propose in your recommendation that the notification be addressed, or do you want to leave that out?
I don't think it's necessary, so I don't necessarily want to add.
Okay, good. Okay. Any other comments? Again, okay. No more questions. Let's have a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those against say 0-0. It's passed. So, thank you.
All right, so we are now through the agenda, other than the portion about, it's actually not listed, but what's on the agenda for next time. So I think we should make sure our data centers are on there. We will definitely have on the agenda a possible ballot question issue for fire. Can you think of any others at this time? We can always add it, but
I'm just wondering if we shouldn't revisit the fire charge, just as, are we waiving the calls right now if it's just a false alarm, or
I'm tracking addresses where the false alarms come.
Okay, so at this point, I don't know if we would really address it, in terms of doing like the second time we make a charge, even though that's a practice.
Correct. I mean, I have not sent a letter saying the next one's going to be able to do.
Yes.
But that's something that I would like to do. So,
I think that we should have it in the ordinance if that's the way we're going to do it.
I was going to bring up also, at the previous meeting, they discussed redoing the chicken coop and how the town hall staff would address that. We've been notified that we do need to have that on the agenda for next month to change the ordinance basically on how we're doing it, because it wasn't a special exception, and now it would not be.
We would have to have a public hearing on it to amend chapter 105
So,
to change the chicken ordinances. I was informed by previous staff right after the meeting, since it went to a public hearing last time.
yeah, but if I recall, what we voted on was to say that the special exceptions would be granted if certain requirements were met.
Correct, but that also entailed on removing animal control from going out there and inspecting it, which is part of the ordinance.
True. Okay, fair enough. Let's put that up with the proper notice. Just put them in the ordinance reading.
Is there a date you want to have this public hearing? Just prior to the board meeting?
Just prior to the board meeting. It'll be a long one. Okay. All right. we have a motion to adjourn? It is, after all, 8:41 PM.
So